If you're seeing signs with your specific person manifestation, but no specific person, you're going to want to watch this video. Now, don't get me wrong. Signs when you are manifesting are always going to be positive. When you see signs in your reality, it means that your mind is transitioning and becoming the individual that already has exactly what you want. So if you're seeing 222, repeated numbers, hearing about your specific person, seeing their name, seeing things that basically relate to your manifestation, that is always a good sign. But if you find yourself stuck in this state of continuously seeing signs but nothing else, then this is going to be the video for you. Because there's a simple metaphor and a simple idea that we can act out to go from just seeing signs to seeing the success and movement that you want with your specific person. And it actually all is in relation to a 3-step process. So whenever we are transitioning or becoming someone else, we go through these 3 steps. And remember, manifestation is technically always instant. So if you are seeing signs, it means you're getting close to making that decision to be something, but still, we just need to make that decision or make it seem very natural and automatic to us. And in this way, manifestation is an instantaneous process because you're either being something or you're not being something. You're either the person who's in your end state or the person who is not in your end state. You're always picking and choosing who you are being at any given moment. And so it would be the moment that you actually choose to make that decision as to how your manifestation must show up then instantly. If everything is a mirror in your reality, as soon as you make a permanent decision to put something in front of it, it must show up. But let me go over that 3-step process so you can act this out and turn these signs into successes. So the first thing, whenever we are getting accustomed to a state, is going to be thinking. We are thinking about what it is that we want to do. The next one is doing, so we're actively doing it. And then the third and final stage of actually manifesting what you want is a state of being. And you can actually relate this to driving a car to make it seem even more simplified. So imagine or think back to the time in which you were learning how to drive a car, right? It started off with thinking. We had to think about it. We had to learn. We had to do things that kind of supported or helped us get into a mindset of preparing to be this driver. And then what did we do after this point? After we had all this beginning information, we started to drive. But in this state still, we weren't a driver. We were still attempting to be a driver. And thus you could only actually sustain the state of being a driver if you were conscious. Think about how hard it was when you began to drive, to use the blinker, to use the gas pedals, to talk to people, to change the radio station, right? There's a million things happening all at once, and you have to constantly be above all of it and in control of it. And of course, as we began, that was difficult. But now, how do you actually drive a car? And you would say easily, effortlessly, automatically. You don't even think about it, and you're doing all of those things at the same time. You have become and are in the state of a driver. And so when it comes to our manifestation, that's exactly what we want to do. If we're stuck in the state of seeing signs, but not seeing successes, and it's only stuck if you feel that way, because as I mentioned earlier, seeing signs is always good. It means your manifestation is working, but we do just have to make that jump from seeing signs or thinking about it to a state of being, because seeing signs but not making that jump is staying in either thinking or a doing state. And I would say even more of a thinking. When you are thinking about what you want, you are changing who you are. You are becoming more adaptable and changeable to the outcome and end state that we want. But if we don't move forward, we're going to be in this state where we're seeing signs over and over and over again, but not actually manifesting what we want. And this doesn't have to be a very hard or difficult process. It just means that we have to move forward. Think about the state of doing in relation to driving a car, right? You can do and drive as long as you are conscious of it, right? We're becoming and staying conscious of driving a car. If we pay attention, if we focus on exactly what we want to do all at once, we can drive it, but it feels difficult. And that's the same thing that happens with our specific person. And it actually leads us to kind of give up or fall back on it. Right now, the state of consciousness of being with your specific person might feel hard to sustain, right? It might feel like you can consciously stay there if you are conscious of it, if you are diverting and keeping all of your attention on it. But if we want to move it into a state of being, we have to change that. We have to make this doing an unconscious behavior. And here's going to be the trick in order to make that transition and turn all of these signs into successes. And here it is. Think of all the characteristics that you feel you are right now. And of course, that's our current state. And if we're trying to become who we already are in our end state, so being the person who's obsessed over by our specific person, we feel as if we have to take upon certain characteristics, right? But what's the difference between those characteristics and the characteristics you feel you are right now? Why do we feel identified with one and not the other? Why do we feel it's consciously hard to act out being obsessed over or chased or pursued, but at the same time, it feels very easy to be the opposite, to be not pursued, to be single, right? Sometimes those states feel very easy and effortless to do. You don't have to consciously act as that person. And that's just because we're in a state of being it. But if we can realize that there is no difference, there's actually no difference between being obsessed over and being single, being desired, and being unloved, all of those characteristics are just ones that you're picking and choosing. And if you can make this disconnection of thinking that you are something and have to become something else, and just remember that you're just consciously being this individual to such an extent that it feels effortless. And remember, you can actually make that same transition with your specific person. You can act as someone who is pursued. You can act as someone who is obsessed over. And there's actually no difference to your mind, to your state, to your subconscious. It will act out either one without actually any restrictions at all. It will just automatically act it out if you choose to be that individual. And it all comes with our end state. So the way that we are imagining ourselves and the way in which we are going to approach or be confident in the sense of doing. So more or less, it's this idea that we're going to do something and act that out and continuously be that individual. There's no sense in identifying with a trait or a characteristic or an idea that we don't want. And then we'll realize that we can actually be anything that we want right here and right now. We can consciously drive the car to such an extent that it becomes unconscious and automatic to us. And then that's the state that's going to change and transmute all of these signs into immediate successes. Because honestly, I would actually refer to signs as being successes, but it's all in relation to the perceiver. The more you see signs as successes, the more it's actually going to promote and help you getting to the sense of being, which sounds strange because obviously that's what we're attempting to change. But the more you perceive yourself as a success, the more success you're actually going to do. And an example of someone actually doing this is this person from a coaching session in which they wrote their specific person, starting to text them more and call them a whole lot more now that they're further into this state of being. Now, before this point, they might have acted or thought of the opposite. Like on our call, we had a long conversation about how they felt their specific person to be acting, but this doesn't actually help them get out of the state. They had a problem with consciously remaining in the end, but then with this same idea of remembering that there's actually no reason that you attach to one characteristic as to another, it's just in our mind, right? We're just picking and choosing to be that thing at any given time. And so if you can remember, you're picking that, you can pick something else, you can approach this conscious doing with a lot of optimism, a lot of empowerment, and you're going to move into a sense of being a million times faster. So what I want you to do today is do something that you feel is going to relate or keep you actionable towards your end state. So do anything that you feel would consciously keep you in your end. And it doesn't have to be a physical thing. It could be a conscious thing of I'm going to act in this way because that's how I would act in my end state. Or I'm going to think in this way because that's the way I would think in my end state. Or this is the way I'm going to be because this is the way I would be in my end state. And consciously keep your attention and assumption on that, but also while remembering it doesn't actually have to take a lot of effort because you're just picking this thing over something else. You never actually manifest or create anything. You're actually just giving yourself what you already have access to, right? Being the person who's obsessed over by your specific person, it's not something that you're creating. It's just something that you already have within you that you're bringing out. And if you can remember that it's just as easy to be obsessed over as to be single, then this whole technique and this concept and this understanding is going to go so easy for you. If you did have any questions on this, make sure to comment them down below. And also make sure to comment what you are going to be doing today and being conscious of at this current moment, whether it's being obsessed over, chased, pursued, loved, desired, whatever it is, comment that down below. If you did have any questions that you wanted to send to me personally, make sure to head over to KyleAugustCoaching.com. That's where you can reach me with all of your successes, worries, thoughts, anxieties, or questions. Again, make sure to comment your questions because this idea can seem difficult, but it actually is very simple and easy. It's just our logical mind that wants to make it difficult. So comment any thoughts that you have on this. And as always, thank you so much for stopping by today. Thank you for leaving a thumbs up on this video. Thank you for subscribing, and I'll see you in my next video tomorrow.